So now you have Italy and Germany sweeping through Western Europe. Across the world, Japan signs on to become part of a tripartite act, a friend, an ally loosely associating with Italy and Germany, the Axis powers. Japan now becomes one of them. They're across the world and they don't have very strong ties, but otherwise they have similar missions in mind. They want to take over British possessions and American possessions down the line. You'll see. Otherwise, though, when France falls, as I mentioned in a prior video, French colonial possessions in Southeast Asia are now vulnerable, and Japan moves in to take colonial and territorial administrative control, i.e., Indochina, even more specifically, Vietnam. Vietnam had been a French colony for the better part of 100 years or so, had been exploited by French imperialists for many different times. We'll talk about that in a couple chapters. Otherwise, though, Japan seized on the opportunity to take possession of these French colonies, and while they are still maintaining militaristic endeavors on mainland China, the United States, as a response to all of this, stops selling Japan American oil and other American goods. It's like, hey, Japan, your actions are not conducive to world peace. They're not right. You're taking advantage of a situation, taking military force, and abusing your powers. And in response, the United States not just cut off oil and other products, they froze all Japanese assets in the United States. All money or other possessions are now frozen. Japan is feeling the effects of this, and Japan is starting to build resentment towards the United States. Couple different things, not just because we're stopping sending them oil and other products and they froze our assets, but the United States has also developed into a significant economic power in the South Pacific that threatens Japan's militaristic power and economic opportunity. You now have a direct competitor in the South Pacific that is threatening your well-being by cutting off supplies. Okay. So, other parts of the South Pacific, in the Indo-Pacific, if you will, can be somewhat oil rich. So, Japan eyes modern day Indonesia for colonial takeover so as to gain access to oil so that they don't have to depend on the United States. Okay, since the United States cut off oil trade, goes to figure, we'll just try and make something else. And what makes matters worse is that the moderate prime minister that Japan had at the time, believe it if you will, moderate, was seen as being weak and was removed from office and replaced by Hideki Tojo, who was not moderate. That man was very militaristic and believed in Japanese superiority and Japanese militaristic economy. He had designs on controlling the entire Eastern Pacific. The United States was a direct threat. Not only did we cut off relations and stop sending economic goods, we threatened their economic growth in an area where they wanted more intense power control. The United States senses that Japan is very resentful and is potentially going to take action against the United States. We start to pick up various different pieces of intel that'll tell us Japan might actually attack us. We just don't know when or where. There are various reports that come out and say the Japanese are going to attack us on November 30th, 1941. We just don't know when or where. And when November 30th passes without anything happening, the United States kind of lets our guard down. On the morning of December 7th, 1941, a massive Japanese air attack approaches Pearl Harbor near modern-day Honolulu in Hawaii, and the massive morning attack on the naval installation there at Pearl Harbor, the home of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, by the way, is massive. It catches the United States off guard. We were not prepared for it. We thought some things had come and passed. We didn't know when or where an attack would come if one came. They caught us with our pants down, if you will. And they virtually destroyed the largest aspect of our naval capability. Over 2,400 sailors were killed in Pearl Harbor. Over 1,000 U.S. soldiers were killed. The United States saw the destruction of 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, 4 other vessels, almost 200 aircraft were destroyed. Japanese Zeros, Japanese bombers, they destroyed our naval installation at Pearl Harbor. And if you've ever been to Hawaii and have ever seen the memorial to Pearl Harbor, it exists to this day. As a matter of fact, some of the ships are still sunken below the surface level, many of which are actually still releasing a little bit of oil and fuel. That's how much fuel those destroyers and battleships had back then, to where there's still a little bit of seepage coming out there to this day. Pretty interesting. Otherwise, though, the Japanese military directly attacked the United States at our naval installation at Pearl Harbor, right in the middle of the Pacific in Hawaii. They attacked us. And they caused an immense amount of damage. They didn't do all the damage that they should have done, though. And partially because the Japanese, while they destroyed a massive aspect of our naval capability in the Pacific, all 4 of America's aircraft carriers were not at Pearl Harbor. Hold that thought. They got us pretty good. They didn't get all of us, though. That leaves the stage open for the United States to make a recovery, and by acts of ingenious and hard work in the American public, we're going to respond. So there are various different things that come out after play. The very next day, Franklin Roosevelt approaches the American public, officially declares war on Japan, and he claimed December 7th to be a day that shall live in infamy. So if you've ever heard that famous quote, that is FDR, and he's responding to Pearl Harbor. December 7th, 1941. And yes, the next day we declared war. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States too. Their tripartite Axis power ally, they declared war on us, so we might as well get in the act. The United States is no longer going to be a neutral party in World War II. We were directly attacked. We are going to respond. Germany and Italy declare war on us as well. Hey, you can't declare war on us because we declare war on you first. We declare war. So now the stage is set. The United States is going to go to war, and it's going to happen on more than one front. So Japan, Germany, Italy, away we go.